everybody. Haven't made a video in a while. I just recently got a new toy. And here it is. It is the Nexstar Select, made by Hobbyco. It's a Nitro RC trainer. It's one of the simpler ones. Good price. I'm happy with it. Haven't really flown it too much. Just a little bit recently. I've done 3 flights. 3 flights, all successful. No issues. Well, at first it was bogging a bit, but I leaned out the engine a bit more. Leaned out the carburetor, and I didn't have an issue after that. But yeah, so it's good. Comes with a Futaba controller here. I think it's called a T4YBF. I don't know. I'm sure it's fine. I don't know too much about all this crazy stuff. I know there's some crazy controllers out there, but for what I use, this works just fine. It's a 4-channel. So for all you people that don't know what the channels mean, it just means how many servos it can move. So basically, you've got your left, right, that's 1 servo. Up, down, that's another servo. And then your tail rudder, that's another servo. So that's 3. And then you have your throttle, which is 4. Which I'm pretty sure that's what that means. If anyone knows different, please comment and say what you think. But I'm pretty sure that's what it means. So I'm just using my Canon here, and it doesn't have autofocus or anything, so I have to figure this out on my own. But you can see it fine. So it's got these little, I don't know what they're called. It basically gives you lift at slower RPM, or a slower speed, sorry. So this is meant for somebody that's never flown a plane before. And I'm not sure if you can see. Might be hard to see, but there's diffusers down here. I guess they would be like flaps, but you just bolt them on. Just for now. Once you're learning, it keeps you going slower. Not so fast, and then once you're more experienced, you can take them off. It has what's the power on this? I know it's an OS engine. I think it's yeah, I'm not even gonna say because I don't know for sure what the power is, but it's a bigger motor. It runs good. I used just a stick start, started up second turnover right away for the first time, and I've never had issues with it. There's been my friends in the past have had RC cars and had issues with them, so I thought this was going to be the same, but I've never had any issues so far. Did the break-in, went through 2 tanks of gas, fully rich, then slowly started leaning it out and then drove it. I mean, this plane is right around $400, depending where you get it from. But it's very reasonable for what you get. You get a steerable front wheel. You get everything included except fuel, a fuel pump, and a glow igniter. You need to get those, which I'll go over shortly. For $400, you can't go wrong. The build quality is decent, but I have to say that I guess they use some kind of shrink wrap type deal on there, and there is some ripples and stuff. So if you're looking for super good craftsmanship, and that's a make or break for you for buying a plane, then I don't suggest this one, unless maybe it's just the one I got that they screwed up on the stuff there. But you know, it's my first plane, so I'm not going to complain too much. It's just fine. Anybody that's never seen one of these planes before, it's a lot bigger. Like if you're just starting out like I did, it's a lot bigger than you think it's gonna be. Like on camera and stuff, it looks small, but once you get out of the package and set it all up, it's pretty big. So if you have a small place and you don't have much room, or you think it's gonna be small, you know, you gotta adjust to that and make sure you have enough room in your house and all that. But it's not that big that you have to really worry about it. What else can I say? For the quality, I had to do a lot of adjusting on the ailerons and the rudder and everything. It was way out of whack, and even trying to adjust it with the controls, like doing your what's it called? I forget what it's called now, but you can adjust it on the controller, and there's a name for it. But you can tell I'm not too crazy. I don't know all these names yet, but I do know a fair amount about planes. So trim, that's what it is, for trimming. So I trimmed it out, and it was like all the way, so I had to do a lot of adjusting. And you can do a lot of adjustments on here for the trim, like with actually pulling out and turning the screws and stuff. And then you can do fine tuning on the controller with the trim. So yeah, that was kind of a downside. I had to adjust the wheel in the front too. It was a way out. So another thing, just the last negative thing I have to say is, you know, I thought everything would be good and tight, and I was going to run it for break-in, and at idle it was rattling like crazy. So I was like, what the hell? And so I shut it off, and I look, and the motor is, the mounts are shaking the motor, and the motor mount, not the actual motor, the motor is on the motor mount, and the motor mount mounts to the firewall in the back, and they were all loose. And one of them actually came out, so luckily I had some small bolts and stuff, and I took the tank out and put my own bolt through there. So buyer beware, you know, whoever's considering this, please double check everything. Double check every single bolt and nut. And I always now, I shake the engine and try to move it to make sure it's good before I start to fly it. Because you don't want that puppy falling off while you're in the air. Because it will. The vibrations are so intense that if the bolts are even loose, they'll eventually come out and fall out. So, yeah, that's the only bad things I have to say about it. And those are pretty minor things, besides the engine thing. Luckily I caught that. Assembly, really easy. Like, I have no experience. I didn't even look at the instructions. I just knew how it kind of went together. Really easy. No elastic bands. They're all nylon washers and bushings. I mean, just that, not bushings or washers. What am I saying? It's just a nylon screw, a bolt. And that holds the wing on really well, actually. I like that way better than elastic bands. It's a cleaner look. Also, the whole tail rudder and all that stuff back there is held on by 2 nylon bolts too. So you just tighten them and screw them in. There's no gluing, none of that. So it's really simple. Luckily, I don't live too far from a hobby shop, so I was kind of in a rush when I got it. I got it for a good deal. I got it for $350, I guess, somewhat of a good deal, from a local hobby shop that had it on sale. Which is the perfect time because I came to buy one and then I saw it was on sale, so it worked out good. What else can I say? Yeah, the motor is really strong once you tune it right. I also had to adjust the carburetor shaft here that pushes on the carburetor there. That for my trim, the way the trim is supposed to work is that this is the trim for your throttle, and with all the way up, you should have it open just a little bit to let it idle, and this is basically your shut-off switch. So you can turn it down and it'll shut right off. And then obviously you can adjust it partial ways to adjust the idle if you want. And so with this all the way up and the stick all the way down, it should idle. So, and then when you want to shut it off, you just push it down. So I had to adjust that because with this all the way up, it still wouldn't run by itself. So I had to keep the throttle up a bit when I was running it the first couple times. So that's one thing to look at. What else? Starting wise, start good. Oh yeah, I guess we can go over some of the things you're gonna need. Yeah, everything bolts together really easily. Basically just plug in the batteries in there. I thought at first, oh, there's no battery, great. But no, it's in there and you just have to plug it in. It's got that active flight stability control and it actually works really well. For people who didn't know or are a little bit skeptic about it, you kind of have to watch on your weather, like as in you have to watch on the sunlight, because the sunlight has to be pretty high in the sky and you don't want it too cloudy but you don't want it too bright for optimal use. It'll still work but it won't work as nice. And you know, I saw in the videos, oh, it'll straighten you out perfect. I'm like, oh bullshit, that's gonna happen. So I was flying it and I was like, okay, let's try this. So I put it on probably a 45-degree bank turn, nice and simple, nothing crazy because I don't want to push it, I'm still learning. And I let go of the sticks and it strained right out and flew great. Really easy to fly. It comes with a trainer, like an online, I think it's made by Real Flights. I think that's the name. It's like Real Flight Pro or something. And it's basically tailored for this aircraft. It's nothing special. It's just one field or whatever, a strip, and just a plane. Like this is all on an RC model on your computer, and you plug in your controller, and you can use it on the computer and fly before you even fly the first time with the plane. And it gets you a feel for how the controls work. And there's a couple tutorials that a guy shows you, but I didn't really use those. I just flew around a bunch of times till I felt comfortable, and then I went outside and tried it, and it worked great. Yeah, so for somebody that's just starting out, I highly recommend it. It's someone that I'm kind of used to RC stuff, so it wasn't too hard to learn for me. But somebody that is really just wants to learn for the first time and doesn't want to spend a lot of money, I suggest just getting a smaller, but if you're a little more confident, then you can go ahead like right to the gas like I did, because I kind of like the gas planes. Don't have to deal with batteries and stuff. Just gotta buy fuel. Yep. So overall, really impressed. Never even touched one of these planes before. Spent an hour on the simulator and went outside and flew it. Broke it and flew it, and didn't have any troubles. I almost hit the ground once because it came low, and I put the throttle way up, and it bogged out because I had it too rich still, and it just touched the grass and almost like flipped. But I got really lucky because it was. I don't really want to explain too much, but it was right by a culvert, and if I would have touched the ground any harder, it would have flipped over. So I got lucky. Yeah, I broke it in really, really rich. The oil was just dripping out of the exhaust all along the side of the plane, and I had my legs on the back. My legs were just drenched in the shit. So, and I highly recommend, if you get this fuel on your hands and stuff, that you wash it off as soon as you can, because it's not the greatest for you. Yeah, okay, so I guess I'll go over the tools I have, and the tools you're going to need to buy with it, just for people who are maybe buying these online. Okay, so here's the stuff you're going to need. If you've known to have RC trucks and cars, you know that you fill the gas tank with a little bottle with a filler neck on it. You can't do that with these. So with an airplane, the bottle's sealed. The only hose, if you can look, I don't know if you can see that. Just tilt the camera up. The only hose is this, I'll show after, but there's only 3 hoses on the plane. And that's because when you go upside down and stuff, like, you can't risk it, I guess. And there's other reasons, and it's hard to get in there, and the fuel tank has to be in a certain place to make the weights right. So you get one of these. This is just a fuel pump hand crank, nice and simple. You have a hose that goes into your tank there with a little filter on the end, and then you have your quick connect. This one's made by Hanger 9, actually, I think. And this, yeah, they make good stuff, I guess. You can also bolt it on to a box on the side, and that's what I'm gonna do, but I need longer hose, so I'm going to have to pick up some longer hose to make this work nice. Then you got your glow igniter. This one is made by Dynamite. It's a LiPo glow igniter, 4.44 watt hours. I suggest getting a LiPo battery. They last a lot longer. And let's just say you charge this fully before winter when you're putting stuff away. Take it off the charger, it'll still have a full charge when you start off in the summer again. And it also doesn't keep a memory of let's say you always charge it at a certain time or a certain like voltage. When it drops too low or whatever, just for example's sake, it'll never store that memory. And if you don't know what I mean, you guys can look it up yourself. I don't feel like explaining. Yeah, it's a nice glow igniter. It has a little light on here that goes green when everything's good, and if it's red, it's either almost dead or it's not making a good connection, or your glow plug is shot. So that's nice. It's really nice. Highly recommend it. This was about $30, by the way. You can get cheap ones for 18 bucks. Don't expect super high quality. I don't like to cheap out on this kind of stuff because this is the stuff that starts a plane, and you could be troubleshooting in the wrong areas just because your glow igniter's shit. And then I got a starting stick. I could have made my own, but I thought I'd just buy one. I don't really recommend starting these with your hand. It's very dangerous. I'm going to put a link in the video to a YouTube video that shows someone that got his hands cut up by a plane. Maybe a little bigger than this, but still, it still shows what I'm trying to say. Very dangerous. Keep your hands away from the props at all time. It's that part. This is a toy, but that's not a toy. You have to treat it with more responsibility, and you can't be too. You can't have too much fun just waving your arms around and stuff, because it's very dangerous. It's got a very sharp blade, and you can get your finger cut off. If you have pets that like to get riled up with these things, I suggest putting them inside, because worst comes to worst, they stick their face in and get cut up really bad. Could even die. So, you know, it's something to be taken seriously. It's not a toy in that aspect. So I suggest a starting stick. Or you can get an electric start, which probably a lot of you see. I don't like them because, let's just say you get fuel lock, which is basically you flooded the motor and it's full with fuel now. Okay, so it looks good like this, but you're not hitting the compression stroke. So let's just say it's full of fuel, and you slam that thing on there and start spinning it, and if there's fuel in there, it's got nowhere to go if you have enough in there. So it locks up the motor, it won't spin, and you can actually break your crankshaft or connecting rod by doing that because of these powerful electric starters. So I don't recommend it. if you have it tuned correctly, it starts just fine with a stick. So that's that. And yeah, so and then nitro fuel. Don't know how well you can see it. Just this is Omega Caster synthetic blend. The hobby shop guy that I know, he knows his shit about this kind of stuff, and he said run 10% in these planes because they're not really too crazy of an engine, and the higher what's it called? Like the higher percentage of nitro fuel, I guess you'd say. I think that's what the percentage means. It's basically just for more high compression engines and more power engines. So he said you don't really need it. He said basically this 5, 10, or 15%, and he said 10% is good. So that's what I got. This was $28, $29. So yeah, and I found my manual here and what the motor is. It's an OS engine, like I said. It's a Max FXI 46. I think that means 0.46 cc. So apparently it's a good motor, strong motor. Good for beginners, not too crazy. And then this is the disc that comes with the whole thing. It's made by Great Plains, and it's called Real Flight RC Simulator Nexstar Edition. Yeah, it's actually pretty nice. The graphics aren't crazy, but that's not what you're there. That's not what you're there to do. You're there to learn how to fly it. So, and then your basic tools: flathead screwdriver, small pointed well, basically you just need this, the flat nose, but and then I would also get some pliers of some sort. They've got a curve on them, but that's just because it's just the ones I had, and they seem to work good to get in little tight spots. And yeah, so that's basically, I'd suggest getting some other screwdrivers, the stars, and a thicker one and a smaller one, and some pliers, normal pliers. And you can see here, I have my little box. This is basically, I can lift this up. I just have these on bungee cords right now. I might make something nicer. And with this bungee cord that actually wraps around, I just found an ingenious idea to put a roll of shop rags on there that fits nice. The bungee goes through it, holds it. And yeah, so I was gonna put the fuel pump right here. That's why the screws are in there, because I just need a longer line. I'm gonna run the line across on top of the box, and it's gonna just sit here and into the tank. And then I'm gonna make a longer fuel line just so I can get into the plane better. And then it's mounted and it's not dangling around. And I suggest getting a nice little box to put your stuff in, just so you stay organized. And try to keep the rubber cap for these glow igniters. You put them on when you're not using them, keeps the shit out of there. So you want a good connection when you're trying to start it. So that's my little kit. And another tip: keep the fuel out of sunlight most of the time. It's just been sitting here for half an hour or so, but you know, keep it indoors, somewhat cold. You don't want it warm. So yeah, so this is plane. I guess I give you a close-up of the engine and everything. Okay. So this is the engine. Come around to this side. So you've got your prop, obviously. This is your fuel line. It's green. So basically, I'll get my fuel pump here. This line goes into your tank. It's got the fuel filter. This line you just connect. So if I just take this plastic cap off, don't lose it. put this line on. And you can start to fill the motor. I can actually pull fuel out of it if I want. I suggest it if you're not going to run it for a couple weeks or something, take the fuel out. So then put the cap back on once you fill it. But you want to take this is the exhaust one. And if you guys don't understand how this works, this line goes into the exhaust. It's not putting gas in the exhaust. It's actually taking exhaust pressure and feeding it back inside the tank. And that's what pushes the fuel into the carburetor. This little blue line, if you can see it. And yeah. So I'll try to move this. Get a better view here. Focus. Okay, so there's that filler line I was talking about. It's the exhaust line. This little blue one. That goes into your carburetor. This is your idle your mixture screw. Carburetor, exhaust, glow plug, cylinder. It's pretty simple. So what I was saying is it pushes exhaust air down that tube into the tank, so it's basically pressurizing the tank. So a pressurized tank, where's the fuel going to go? It's going to want to go out. It's going to want to come through this blue line and goes into the carburetor, and that's how it fuels the plane. If you don't have this green line plugged off, it will come through there. So you run it and this thing's going to spray out. So make sure you never ever lose that cap. You want that cap. Yeah, so basically I've touched over most of it. I don't want to, you got your on and off switch on the side here. Simple. So basically to prime it, like you've probably seen on lots of videos. Oh, of course my phone's ringing. You basically just put your thumb over it, crank it over a couple times, and you'll see the fuel come in this line right here. Or maybe you won't. Oh, there we go. So you can see it. I don't know if you can see that or not. Now it's primed. I would do it a couple more times, but just to show. It leaks back. It's been sitting. So that's how that works. Thunderstorms rolling in. That's why I'm not going to show you guys me flying it today. Sorry. It's kind of windy. Haven't really flown it too much. Not too confident in flying with the wind, and we got a storm rolling in. I don't know if you can hear the thunder. Yeah, it's super quiet now. But anyway. Okay, so I'll show you quickly the controls here. Just for all noobs out there. Okay, so we got your power on switch right in the bottom corner here. And you turn on the plane. Everything did its own thing now. If anyone wants to explain to me why the servos like to change position when you turn it on and off sometimes, that'd be greatly appreciated, because it really doesn't make sense, and I'm not sure why it does it. So if you could please explain to me from my back, from my left and right there, the back wings there, it's sometimes they're straight, sometimes they're way out, like it doesn't make any sense. So anyway, you go left, right, I don't know, you can't even see it. Let's turn this baby around. Okay, there we go. So, left, right, then you go up, down, and then this is your throttle up, throttle down, and then left, right. Also turns the front wheel. Okay. So that's how that works. And I think you can hear the thunder. So, and if anyone has this model and they want to explain to me what this toggle switch is right up here, that'd be greatly appreciated as well. I haven't looked in the manual, I don't know if it even says. But yeah. So then you just switch it off when you're done. I think I'm going to start it up for you guys. So, controller on, plane on. Want a little bit more fuel going in there. Do it a couple times. Get your glow igniter. Put it on top. Gotta press pretty firm, make sure it's on there good. Keep my throttle controls back. Hold the plane. There you go. And it wants to move. The surface is too flat for it. But there you go, it's running. And then you can adjust your trims here. It idles really nice too. Like I'm very impressed. It's a good motor. But you can't let it idle too much or it'll bog out, and you have to kind of rev it up before you start going again. But I'll hold the back there and I'll give it a good rev up for you guys. And then when you want to shut it off, and that's how it's done. A lot of you might not know, sometimes these engines can go in reverse. It'll kick back and start in reverse. Don't worry about it. The air will push this way and it won't be very much. Don't worry about it. Just shut the fuel off like that, like I did, and try again, and it'll run better. Also, I had to ask somebody because I wasn't sure. You always start the prop counterclockwise. That's how you always start it. Just like you're looking in front. This is always how you do it. And I kind of figured, I was like, well, this is the sharp end. I thought maybe the sharp end you want that to cut through the air. So I thought, well, it probably goes clockwise, but I never tried it because I wanted to consult with someone first, and they said no. The sharp end, you push down on the stick with the sharp end. So, yeah. So that's the plane, as you can hear the thunder. Maybe another time I'll show a video of me flying it around. And yeah. Always charge your glow igniter, I forgot to mention. Charge your glow igniter completely before you ever use it. And do the same with the plane. And before you run the plane, make sure you do a radio system check, do full throttle checks. Also do a range check. So basically just get a friend and walkie-talkie or whatever and go as far as you can before things start glitching out. If your controls start jiggling around and they look like they're having little seizures, don't run the plane. Either your battery's low or there's a radio frequency problem, something's interfering. So if that happens, I don't recommend flying it at all until you fix the issue, because it could result in a crash, or actually, worst case, someone getting hurt. You saw how I had my hand on the plane when I started it. You have to start it with about a quarter throttle. They just seem to start best that way, and so the plane wants to move. So yeah, you want to hold it, because the last thing you want is to be starting everything in the front of the plane and all of a sudden it starts coming at you. So always be careful with that. It'd like to roll around on this table. The table's kind of slanted, and yeah, it's very flat and smooth. So I think it's about time to wrap this up. I can feel a couple raindrops. Thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully have some more videos to come, and I'll be able to do a better review once I fly it more and learn everything about it. So thanks, guys, for watching. Please rate, subscribe, comment. Please no negative comments. I'd like to keep it as positive as possible. Thanks, guys. See ya.